Will I ever be happy again? I get that question all the time. I'm Dr. Joe Beam with MH International. You probably know us as Marriage Helper. I want to talk about that for a few minutes. Can you be happy again if some terrible thing has happened, particularly in your marriage? Say your spouse cheated on you, or somebody gambled away all the money, or let's say that a child got sick and, God forbid, died. In other words, some event occurred in your life, either caused by your spouse or just caused by nature itself or just the circumstances and situations of life. And you find yourself being miserable, and you're thinking, can I ever be happy again? The short answer is yes, if. You might be saying, if what, Dr. Beam? If you choose to be. Now, stay with me a minute. No, this is not one of those self-help, punch you up, make you feel like a tiger kind of things. We're going to talk about real life here, not some yah-yah, rah-rah speech, okay? When I say if you choose to be happy again, you see all kinds of things in life will come along that cause all kinds of pain. Recently, I was diagnosed as having prostate cancer, for example. I have been taking medicine for it since last July. I'm actually recording this right at the beginning of 2025. And I have gone through 29 sessions of proton radiation therapy. And hopefully all of that will have cured my cancer. But you realize that nobody with cancer can actually claim to be cured until they go at least 5 years being cancer-free. And so 5 years, well, we're starting 2025. We had 5 years to that. You mean that's when you can finally say, I'm cancer-free? Yes. Aren't you scared? No. Aren't you worried? No. Now, when I told my daughters about it, one of my daughters, Joanna, began to be very upset very quickly because she misunderstood when I said prostate cancer. She thought I said pancreatic cancer, which is the cancer that killed my father. And she thought, oh no, if you have that, Dad, then you're dead. And so we was very upset, and we helped her understand, no, this is a different kind of cancer, much better prognosis with this one, and et cetera. So my daughters know, of course, my wife knows, my brothers, my sister, and many people on Facebook, because I'm one of those transparent people that said, hey, if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate your prayers. Now, I realize that this cancer has a possibility of killing me, but I'm happy. You see, why? You see, happiness, if you think about it in the most basic way, happiness is based on what's happening, but not just on what's happening, it's how you interpret what's happening. So what do you mean? Okay, football season when I'm recording this, but they have all the big bowl games and the playoffs and all those kinds of things. You look at that and go, okay, so you put 100,000 people in the stadium. Mm-hmm. Let's say 50,000 are for this team, 50,000 are for that team. Mm-hmm. One team finally wins. May have to be after 8 overtimes, but one team finally wins. Mm-hmm. Who's happy? Well, the people whose team won. Mm-hmm. And why are they happy? Because our team won. Well, who's sad? Well, the 50,000 people whose team lost. Mm-hmm. Are they ever going to be happy again? Sure they are. Because you see, the way they're going to interpret that is, it's a game. I'm not going to let my attitude be determined by a group of 18 to 22-year-old young men. They play the best they can. I want them to win. I cheer for them. I buy their jerseys. But my life is not predicated upon whether these guys win a baseball, or actually I should say a football game. And so they can go on with their life being happy. You say, that's an illustration that's absolutely ridiculous. How does that compare to cancer? Okay. The way I interpret this cancer is that through prayer and through proton radiation therapy and through medicines I'm taking orally, that I'm going to be cured. You see, but what if you're not? Then it could be that cancer could go into my bones, or it could go into my kidneys, or it could go into some other organ in my body, and it could wind up killing me. Don't you worry about that? No, because I choose to interpret this way. Life is good. And although evil things happen and bad things happen and tough things happen, life overall is still good. And my happiness is not determined by how long I'm going to live. Now, I want to be happy in the moment. You say, but wouldn't you like to live a long, long time? Yes, if. Another if? Yeah, if I still had my mind. I mean, I've watched people die with dementia. I don't want to die like that. So are you beginning to understand it's really about how you interpret things? How you interpret things. Many, many years ago, I used to pray this. I would pray, Lord, let me live long enough to see my grandchildren get married. But I would always add this to the prayer. But if something that I would do would cause any of my children or grandchildren to err in life, mess up their lives, or miss heaven, then kill me now. I'd rather die at this moment and the children and grandchildren grow up not even knowing who I am, or at least the grandchildren grow up not knowing who I am, than being the one who would cause their fall. It's a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of how you look at it and say, so then a person with cancer can be happy. I am, yeah, but you don't have pancreatic cancer. I know. And if I do get pancreatic cancer, which, God, I'm not asking for, then I'll have to figure out, do I have the strength and the faith to view that through the right lens as well? Like, Lord, I've been able to do a whole lot of things in my lifetime. I've been around the world. I've been able to talk to millions of people in audiences where I've been the speaker. I've been on national television several times and have been part of an organization, Image International, which has helped save thousands and thousands of marriages around the world. Why do I want to live forever on this planet? I don't want to hurt. So, Lord, if I get the pancreatic cancer, give me the good stuff so I don't have a whole lot of pain. My interpretation is not going to be, oh, my goodness, I'm dying. At least I hope not. My interpretation is going to be, look how good life has been. Look at all the wonderful things that have occurred. Now, you can do the same thing in marriage. Really? Really. You see, when I divorced my wife, Alice, back in 1984 and left her for another woman, that I was going to marry and live happily ever after, which didn't happen. It doesn't happen. And then back in 3 years after that, after I divorced her, I asked Alice if she would take me back, and she did, and she remarried me. And so we've been in this second marriage since 1987. So a pretty long time, as you can see. Now, when I was divorcing Alice, when I was leaving Alice for the other woman, we went to a marriage counselor, not because of the fact that I wanted to save the marriage, but because of the fact that I still had some degree of guilt. And the marriage counselor asked me a question. He said, now, when you first fell in love with Alice, and I responded by saying, I've never been in love with Alice. To which he asked, then why did you marry her? And I had some excuse worked out in my brain. I told him, you said, did you really believe that, or are you just lying to him? Oh, I really believed it. I believed I'd never been in love with Alice. As a matter of fact, I could not remember one single good thing about Alice. Literally. No, I wasn't faking it. No, I wasn't lying. It was not there. You see, but hadn't there been good things? Sure, there had been. Then why weren't you remembering them? Okay, a little Freudian psychology oversimplified, all right? Freud divided the mind into two things, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, in the subconscious mind, he divided that into two, and one called the preconscious and one called the unconscious. Now, the preconscious is where you have information that you can access, but not readily. Like you hear a song and you think, oh my goodness, what's the name of that song? And then an hour later, it pops into your head. Basically, it was in the preconscious. It's available, but just not right there in the front. It's the preconscious. It's there, but not conscious at the moment. The unconscious is not available. Like somebody has a car wreck and they can't remember anything about that day. That whole day is obliterated in their mind. Well, technically speaking, the theory is that everything that we've ever experienced in our lives is stored in there. Everything. Some people can access it. Those are the people that we say have perfect memory or photographic memory. There's actually a better word for it, or technical word for it. But they have that kind of memory and can call it what page something was on that they read when they were 14 years old. That's because they can access nearly everything in their head. Wow. Now, most of us are not like that. And whatever's in the unconscious has been put over there because of the fact that our mind either can't deal with it or doesn't want to deal with it or finds it just totally irrelevant. Like, why do I need to take up RAM with this information that I don't need? So it's way over there, right? So I can remember nothing good about Alice at all. Nothing. It had been put into my unconscious mind by my mind, not because I told it to. This was all happening in here, you understand? And I remembered nothing about her. And in that case, if I had not been able to put back a relationship with Alice, then my memory would have always been probably, no, Alice is a bad person. Only bad things happen with her. And anytime you would bring her up, I'd be miserable. But Alice and I did get back together. And slowly with time, because now it no longer was a threat to what I was doing, the good memories about Alice eased back through my pre-conscious and finally to my unconscious, and I can remember things we did together on our wedding day. And I'm not talking about what you think I'm talking about. Well, I can remember all kinds of good things about Alice through life. You say, so what's your point here? The point is, when my mind decided to be positive about Alice, I can remember good things about Alice. Well, has Alice always been perfect? No. So are there some bad things about Alice you could remember? Sure. I choose not to. I used to do a class way back in the good old days, I should say. This was back in the early 1970s, before some of you were born. A friend of mine named Ron Willingham, who was a mentor and taught me many things, had designed this class called Adventures in Christian Living, and they were done in churches. And in one of the sessions, as I recall, it was session 7, I think. There were 8 sessions altogether, and this was 6 or 7, something like that. What you did, everybody got up and shared in that class, and on that one, it was like, tell about an event in your life that was horrendously bad that turned out to be a blessing. Everybody in that class, and I did that class in several different churches, everybody had a story. I'll give you one. One guy got up, his wife was in the class, his children who were teenagers were also in the class. He got up and said, my first wife was amazing. She could do anything. She was an adventurer, and she wanted to learn how to fly, and so she did. And when it came time for her to do her solo to finally get licensed, she had a broken leg. She did her solo in a cast and got her license. And then later she wanted to learn how to skydive. And so I was going to teach her how to skydive. And on her first jump, as she went out of the plane, and I'm watching her from the plane, her chute never opened. She went all the way to the ground. I watched my wife die. He said, it was terrible for me. And my children here, they're from that wife, my first wife, my dead wife. I was lost. I didn't know what to do, so I got my sister to take care of my 2 children for a while. They were very young, and I just kind of wandered lost in life and didn't know if I would ever be happy again because I loved that woman so much. Now, his current wife sitting right over there, and I'm wondering, how is she hearing this? And then he said, until I met her, and he pointed to the woman he was married to now. He said, I had no religion whatsoever before. She taught me about God. She taught me about Jesus. She taught me about faith. Not only me did she lead to Christianity, she led my 2 children to Christianity. She is an amazing mother. And none of that would have happened had my wife not died. Now, am I happy my wife died? No. If I stop to think about it, it's still heartbreaking. What I'm telling you, the blessing that came from it is amazing. Because look what came from it. And that's what I choose to think about. That's what I choose to focus on. Then another lady who was very attractive. As a matter of fact, she was over all the nurses in one of the major hospitals in Atlanta. Very intelligent woman, very beautiful woman. And she got up and she said, a terrible thing in my life that turned out to be a blessing. She said, when I was very young, my mother and father fought all the time. Now, my mother was cooking some fish one time, and there was a deep fryer full of hot grease, and they were all frying in there. And I was trying to get between them to stop them from fighting, and somehow they tipped that thing over, and it scalded my head. And I'm looking at her thinking, I see no scars. She said, I have no hair. I can grow no hair. The whole top of my head is nothing but scar tissue. She said, this is a wig. And I thought, it's a very nice one. She said, this is a wig. And I'm thinking, so where's the blessing? She said, you know something? Sometimes around home, I have two teenage daughters. And of course, how teenage daughters are. They're always fastidious about their looks, their makeup, their hair, everything else. She said, but sometimes around home, I just don't wear my wig. I've just got that scalded head up there. And my daughters tell me how beautiful I am. My husband tells me how beautiful I am. Maybe I'm one of the few women on planet Earth that knows that it's not my looks that they look at. It's me as a human being and a person. And they love me for that, which means they'll love me when I'm old and gray and wrinkled and crippled. They'll always love me. And I know that now. It's turned out to be, and she said, oh, and the other blessing, I get to change hairstyles every day. I could go on and on with the stories. And so Alice and I share our story about my infidelity, how much it hurt her, how we put our marriage back together, and how good things are now. And the reason we share that is because it helps other people. And you might say, doesn't it make you sad? In the midst of telling the story, sometimes it gets a little sad. But no, because what both of us focus on is how good our life has been since 1987. And how that one of the things we decided to do after we married was have another child to celebrate that second marriage. And that child is named Kimberly Beam Holmes because she's married now. And she runs this entire organization. And she's helping people all around the world. Recently, she and some of our team, including our producer here, Jason, were in Kenya, charging nothing financially, going at our expense to help marriages over there. And so the blessing, the good things that have come since then is we get to help marriages in a way we never could have before because we understand things we never did before. And I went ahead and got a PhD to learn more because of that. And we have a daughter who runs the entire organization, and we get to work with some of the best people on planet Earth. So can you be happy again? Yes, if you choose to be. What are you going to focus on? The bad or the good? And why are you focusing on what you're focusing on? Is it helping or is it hurting? Now, if your marriage is still in trouble and you're thinking, wow, I wish we could tell your story, Dr. Beam, about how we put our marriage back together and my husband or wife now can think positive things about me again and et cetera, good. We'd love to invite you to one of our workshops. We do them in person here in Middle Tennessee, near Nashville. We also do them online for people who can't get here. And if you'd like to find out more about it, you can book a call with one of our representatives who can listen to your story. Now, he or she will not be a counselor or a therapist. They're a person who represents us. So we'll listen to your story, understand what it is you're looking for, what you need. And if we have it, they'll direct you to it. They'll help you find out where it is. And if you choose to follow it, they'll help you enroll in it. They're there, and they'll give you that free 30-minute phone call. All you have to do is go to marriagehelper.com. That's marriagehelper.com/call. And if you do that, you'll find one of those slots, fill it in. And please, if you fill in a slot, please fulfill it. In other words, that means that one of our people is going to schedule his or her time around talking to you in that half-hour slot. If you forget or you ignore it, then we have a half hour of our person not being able to help somebody because you'd reserved that spot. So if you reserve it, please be there. They'll listen, they'll care, we'll help. And you can be happy if you choose to be.